But bowling just makes me so happy, you know. Even if I'm not bowling good, it's the thrill and the excitement of trying to figure it out.
Brandon Curtis, Lee Harris, Lawrence Hamilton, Crystal Hall, Ralph Vitolo, Louis Garay, Nick Johnston, Akito Kim, James McGinnis.
You know, when I walk in the building, I have that belief that, well, I should be up there. I do have an opportunity to win, and I wholeheartedly believe that. I just think that women's bowling is not known enough about. If we look at women's tennis, let's say, there's been the legends like Billie Jean King that kind of changed the way that tennis was perceived in the public eye, and we don't have that yet for bowling. Bowling is still seen as, okay, well, I go with my friends and I go have a pizza, or I go have a beer, or, you know, I take my kids for a birthday party. It's very much seen as a recreational sport, and it's trying to get people to see that there is a professional side of it. So I was born and raised in Bournemouth, England. I then actually moved to the United States when I was 18. All through my family, really. My parents bowled, but the main reason was because of my brother. We went to a birthday party. It happened to be on a Saturday morning, and he really enjoyed it, and they had a youth bowling club going on. And from there, it just kind of skyrocketed. I bowled tournaments all over the UK with that youth bowling club. And I just kept bowling and competing as much as I could. My parents took me literally every weekend. That was kind of my social life. And that's how I got into it. So I went to Weber International University for 4 years. For me, bowling's always been a very individual sport. Growing up, everything was by myself, apart from some events I'd bowled for Team England. So going actually into collegiate bowling was a decently big step for me because I had a team that I was bowling with literally 24/7. So you had 7 people behind you that were really trusting in you to throw the ball, and you just had their support. Randy Stoughton was my coach for 4 years, and I feel like I learned so much from him. He was very supportive, but he didn't necessarily hold the team's hand. You know, he let you figure it out for yourself. If you really had a question, then you could come to him and ask. Once I graduated, I took some time to work, and you have to have a visa when you're from England, so that's a bit of a pain, but I managed to get all of that sorted, and then after my collegiate career, I decided to go professional. Honestly, I didn't really know where I could take bowling. When I was younger, I used to tell myself, you know, I love bowling, I just want to bowl. That's all I ever knew, that's all I ever wanted. So it wasn't really until I came to the US where I really started to get an understanding for professional bowling. Then when I was in college, my first couple of years, I knew that I was a good bowler, but I didn't really have that confidence that I could take it to the next level. And it wasn't until I competed in some professional events actually as an amateur, and I had a lot of success. My first USBC Queens, I bowled really well and I led qualifying. And from there, I kind of had that thought of, wow, maybe I could actually become a professional bowler. The women's tour went away for a very long time, so right now I'm just grateful that it did come back. I think right now the men have more coverage because of the TV, they're on Fox, and I think that has a little bit more coverage. The hard part is that the women's tour does only run for 3 months throughout the summer, so it's a little bit harder for them to get that much coverage when they're only on for 3 months.
You want those ladies, you want those young women to have something to be able to showcase their talents with. I always think it's fair, right, if a men's tour and a women's tour. I was a big component of when PWBA came back. You know, I know a lot of the PWBA members personally, and knowing that they didn't have anything to bowl, and some of them were in their peaks of their careers at that time, but being able to watch them now get back on the lanes and just win, and it's amazing. It's an amazing feeling.
I really appreciate the fact that the men's tour allow the women to compete in it. So I could go to a men's event just like I bowled the PBA regional and I can compete. I'm so used to competing against the men, and I think for me, sometimes I would not rather do it, but there's a lot more competition bowling with the guys. So it's a really nice feeling, obviously, when I can beat them. But in my mind, I'm kind of getting that realization and that confidence to where I feel like I should beat them. And I feel like that's what's really helped my performances lately, is that I'm starting to get that confidence and that belief in myself. It shows you the location from where I let it off my hand, then literally the whole way. So a lot of the preparation is done in practice, and I will practice 5 days a week on different aspects. So depending on what my goals are will kind of depend on what I work on. The women definitely want to be a little bit more athletic, and on the guy side, I think that maybe it's that stereotype, or maybe it's just because they've had success without doing it. I think that's the biggest key, is, with other endurance sports that, well, you have to train because it benefits your sport so much. Whereas with bowling, I think it's understanding that it does benefit you by working out. I think there is so many people that actually support women's bowling, and I think there's so many more female bowlers than a lot of people realize. Out on the women's tour, we have people that come from Sweden, Japan, Indonesia, I'm from England, Poland. We have every single country almost competes, and that's kind of the aspect that a lot of people don't see unless you're really within bowling. I think from a women's perspective, we always want to kind of inspire the younger generation. If I can inspire one person to pick up a bowling ball or to go from amateur to professional, that's a win. If every professional bowler can get that one person to pick up a bowling ball, then, it's going to make a difference. Obviously, the bowling industry has been affected by COVID. Once everything shut down, I personally had 3 months of literally no bowling, at least no bowling center. I tried my best to bowl at home because I had no idea when things are going to recover. I thought that, okay, well, as soon as this pandemic ends, I thought it was going to end. So I thought, okay, things are going to get back to normal and I'm going to go back on the lanes. I'm going to have the PWBA tour to compete in. So I literally made this tiny little setup with some cushions at home so that I could still do drills and still feel like I was bowling, still have my hand in a bowling ball, and I just wanted to be ready for when the tour was going to start.
PWBA is run by USBC and BPAA. And I think it's important to realize that when these bowling centers shut down in March, we were proprietor driven for those tournaments. Our contractual obligations and things like that were to bowling centers that were closed.
The PWBA tour was cancelled for 2020, which I wasn't very happy about. I felt like I was doing so much preparation to get ready for that tour. I personally look at how things are in England at home, and it's very different to it is in the US. So because of that, I'm really trying to take advantage of the bowling I can do right now, because I know that, if I was in England, I wouldn't be as lucky and I wouldn't be as grateful because I wouldn't be able to bowl.
Immigration is always a very tricky subject, and it's not normally something that I share with the bowling world. It's normally just something I get on and I do it, and it's part of my journey. In order to be in the US, I obviously have to have a visa, and I applied for an athlete visa, and it was the same visa that I had had for 3 years prior. Unfortunately, they gave me reasons for the denial, and of course the main reason was just that I didn't submit enough evidence to prove the categories. I had never not had a Christmas at home, and to me, I'd always said to myself, like, I'm whatever the situation, regardless, I will always be home for Christmas. It's just, my family means so much to me, and I hadn't seen them in so long, and Christmas is always that time where I get to see them. So I wanted to figure out the visa so that I could go home. Because of everything that ended up happening, I made the decision not to go home so that I would be able to bowl the PWBA tour. My parents are very supportive, and they pretty much said, like, Verity, this is your livelihood. You made the decision that you want to bowl full time. It's okay. We'll have for Christmas another time whenever you get to come home. So I sacrificed not going home for Christmas so that I could bowl in January in the PWBA tour. And then that was taken away from me too. So I just cried so much and it's very emotional to think about. The hard part right now about the UK is because it's locked down, everything is shut, right? So there's not actually anyone in a bowling centre that would be able to let me in. I've set up a little bowling lane in my hallway, so at least I can practice a little bit. That was something I did in the first lockdown when I was in the US, and I felt like it did benefit me. So I wanted to make sure that I did that again. I felt so ready at the beginning of January to go and compete. So to have that taken away from me, okay, that's one thing, that's okay. But now to not even have the ability to train is probably the hardest part. Genuinely don't think that I expected to have the response that I did. So it's very heartwarming to know that all of these people want to watch me bowl. And just, I have so many comments and I read all of them because it's just amazing to have so much support. I would say I'm still motivated. I'm very motivated to get back, and I'm motivated to try and stay as sharp as I can be.
After what was nearly 3 months back in England, I am so happy to be back in the US and to be able to bowl. I am just so ready to be back on the lanes and so excited to be able to bowl again, and really looking forward to be able to compete on the PWBA Tour this summer.